Hello, welcome to BM6611 Managing Brands, session 15, which is all about designing and implementing branding strategies. There are two videos to accompany this session. This is video number 1, and it deals with the concept of the product brand matrix. In video 2, we will look at the brand hierarchy. The compulsory reading for the whole topic is another paper by Kevin Keller, 2015, Designing and Implementing Brand Architecture Strategy, and that was published in the Journal of Brand Management. And as always, there are two other readings which are listed here, one of which, Aker and Joachimsthaler, 2000, The Brand Relationship Spectrum, the Key to the Brand Architecture Challenge, is your compulsory reading for next week's topic, which is about brand extensions. So, brand strategy or brand architecture. The two terms are actually synonymous, as is often the case in business and certainly in marketing. There is often multiple terms for particular concepts and no single agreed term. So when you read about brand strategy or brand architecture, it essentially means the same thing. Within this area of brand strategy or brand architecture, there are two important tools that we can use to help us evaluate how branding works on an overall basis within an organization. How many brands there are, how the brands are used, how the brands are deployed across different product categories or market sectors. Does the organisation consist of one brand only, a corporate brand, or does it have many, many, many brands and sub-brands underneath? These two strategic tools are, first of all, the brand product mix matrix, and then secondly, the brand hierarchy. And both of them together help us to analyse and make sense of the relationships that exist within an organisation between the products and services that they market and the brand names that they use. So in this video, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to focus on the first of these tools, the brand product mix matrix. But before that, let's just take a little bit of an overview. What is brand strategy or brand architecture all about? Well, it relates to brand elements. Remember, we looked at those back in a previous session earlier in the module. And brand elements are things like the brand name, the brand logo, brand colour or colours, the font that is used, the type of packaging and style of packaging, packaging design, the slogan, the jingle, brand characters, and so on and so forth. And so when we think about brand strategy, what we're really doing is looking to see about the number and type of either common brand elements that are used across all sorts of products, or distinctive brand elements that are only used in one or a small number of products. In other words, how are brand elements used to either unify and pull products together so that customers will recognise them as being a sort of related family or group? Or how are brand elements used to create clear divisions between the different products and services that an organisation sells to its marketplaces? So which brand elements are applied to which products, and what are the characteristics of new and existing brand elements that would be applied to new products that an organisation introduces? So the organisation wants to diversify or expand a product line. Is it going to do that by drawing upon some existing brand elements, in other words, a brand extension? Or is it going to create a completely new standalone brand with its own new brand elements? So branding strategy then is about the overarching structure of how brands work within an organisation. And brand architecture plays a really important role. First of all, it clarifies, and therefore it clarifies the nature of all the products and services that an organisation markets, and therefore assists in building brand awareness. Remember, brand awareness is all about making the consumer or the target customer aware of your brand, but also of what your brand is, what type of product it is, why they might need it. So brand architecture helps to improve the target customer's understanding of the different things that the organisation offers, where they fit together, where they might be different, and then to communicate those similarities and differences between individual products. So it helps the consumer to make sense of what the organisation offers. So you can see here on the screen 2 pictures of jars of instant coffee from the Nestle company. Both are sold under the Nescafe brand name. And you can see that there's a lot that unifies and brings these 2 types of coffee together. The shape and the size of the jar, the colour of the packaging, which is predominantly gold, the placing of the Nescafe logo. The Nescafe logo is in fact identical. The use of a circular device on the middle of the label to display the brand name and to display some colours and symbols and images that relate to coffee. But then there are differences too. One is Nescafe Gold Blend, and the little coffee bean symbols are shown in a very bright gold colour. The other is Nescafe Blend 37, a decaffeinated coffee. So it has a very different colour, a bright green. So that differentiates it and shows that this is not a regular coffee. It's Nescafe, it's related to Gold Blend, but it's a little bit different. And as a result, brand architecture can have a motivating effect on the target customer by drawing upon the image of existing brands. So it can maximise the transfer of brand equity to and from a brand to individual product underneath that brand name, to improve the consumer's propensity to try a product in the first place, and to improve repeat purchase. So if you are a Gold Blend customer, if you're used to buying Gold Blend and you see Blend 37 and you're looking for a decaf coffee, you might be tempted to try that because it has many of the characteristics. The brand elements show that it has many of the characteristics of Gold Blend. It comes from the same stable. You might expect the same quality, the same good quality, the same good taste, etc. So you're more motivated to try the product. And this is important because we need to, in organisations that operate across a range of different product markets, need to help consumers to make their way around, to navigate their product portfolios, to help them to understand what they offer and organise them and sort of classify them in their minds. And therefore, they'll be more likely to buy. Also, it specifies particular brand roles. What role does each brand play in the organisation's portfolio? And the nature of the relationships between the different brands, the market segments that each brand targets, the particular benefits that each brand offers, particular image that each brand has. So now let's get back to our 2 important strategic tools, and particularly the brand product mix matrix, which is going to be the focus of the rest of this video. And then in the next video, we'll look at the brand hierarchy. And remember that both of these help us to define the relationships between the products or services, or products and services, that an organisation offers and the brands that it uses. Which brands apply to which products? So the brand product mix matrix is really just like a spreadsheet. It is a spreadsheet to all intents and purposes, and usually when one is created, an Excel is used to build it. So we have columns and we have rows. So if we look at the columns first of all, each column in the brand product matrix is a product category. So the number of columns in the matrix defines the number of different product categories that the organisation operates in. So that might be baby food, it might be bottled juice drinks, it might be ready-to-eat dessert products, it might be breakfast cereals, etc., etc. If we think about a large diversified food products organisation like Mondelez or Nestle or someone like that. So each column represents a product category, and each row in our matrix represents a brand. So where we have the intersection of a brand and a row and a column, we know that the organisation has a brand in that product category. So looking down the columns of our brand product mix matrix tells us about the depth of the organisation's product line, the number of different brands that it has in each product category, how large its business is essentially in each product category. And it then sets out the brand portfolio, the set of all the brands in a particular product category. And then if we look across the rows of the brand product mix matrix, we can see the breadth of the product mix, the number of different product lines and items across all the different product categories and marketplaces that the organisation offers to the market. We can see where there are line and category extensions, where the organisation has introduced different product variants within a product category to create new product lines, such as dilutable drinks versus ready to drink in bottles, ready to drink in cartons, etc. Each of those would be line extensions, or where it may have taken a brand into a different product category, such as something like Mars confectionery bars becoming Mars ice cream bars. So that's a category extension. Or Ribena blackcurrant juice drink being transferred and extended into ice lollies, Ribena ice lollies. So looking across the rows of the brand product mix matrix shows us where brands have been extended. And therefore we can see the overall breadth of each brand and all the product lines that sit underneath a brand. So let's look at an actual example of a brand product mix matrix. And we've taken the example of Nestle. So we have our columns as product categories. We've got drinks and breakfast cereals and chocolate and sugar confectionery and bottled water, etc. Each column representing a different product category. So if we just focus on looking down those columns at the moment, what we're looking at here, if you remember, is the depth of the product line. So you can see in drinks, it's not particularly deep. There's only one entry, chocolate-based drinks. But in chocolate and sugar confectionery, it's much deeper. So it's much more depth. In this product line, there are 4 entries. There's chocolate confectionery, there's biscuit-based confectionery, there's boxed confectionery, boxed chocolate confectionery, and then sugar confectionery, things like mints and fruit sweets and so on. So looking down the columns indicates the depth of product line. Now the deepest one here that's shown is actually coffee, where there are a whole range of different types of coffee in different sub-market segments and so on that are offered by the Nestle organisation, many of them under the Nescafé brand name. At the bottom, there's a link to Nestle's website and to a section of it which deals with bottled water. You might want to look at that and see how Nestle organises its bottled water brand portfolio, what its brand strategy or its brand architecture is. So that's an example of how we can look down the columns of a brand product mix matrix and see how the organisation has penetrated different product categories, what its depth of product line is in each of its sort of main business areas. Now we can start to put brands into the picture. So if we just go back to our example that we were looking at a minute ago and expand it out by inputting the brands. So we started out by looking at drinks, and we saw that there was only one product line there, chocolate-based drinks, and there's only one brand, Nesquik. So not a product category that Nestle has great depth in. However, the Nesquik brand has been extended from Nesquik chocolate powder drink that you mix with milk and ready to drink equivalents, has been extended into a different product category. One cell to the right, you can see Nesquik breakfast cereal. And indeed, the Nesquik brand has actually been extended into other product categories that aren't shown on this example of a product brand matrix, such as ready-to-eat dessert pots and things of that nature. If we look at the chocolate and confectionery column now, we can see that the chocolate confectionery part of that actually has 10 brands in it. Only 3 of them are listed individually, Aero, Yorkie and Smarties, but then there are 7 other brands. In the biscuit confectionery, there's Kit Kat and 6 others. In the boxed chocolates, there's After 8 plus 3 others. And in the sugar confectionery, there's Polo Mints, which go under the Rowntree's name, even though the overall corporate brand owner is Nestle. Similarly, in bottled water, we have different product categories. If we just stick on the top one, there are 3 brands in the sort of a premium product category: Buxton, Aquapanna and Contrex. But overall, Nestle has many bottled brands. So this enables us to look at how brands have been extended across product categories. So the brand product matrix, therefore, defines the relationship between products and brands, the depth of the product line and the brand portfolio. And those are identified by looking down the columns. It also identifies brand to product relationships across the rows, the breadth of the product mix, the number of product line and category extensions, and the breadth of brand lines overall. Breadth of brand lines coming from our... So the example here is just really reinforcing the fact that we can use this. You can see that the 2 Nesquik cells have been highlighted. So we can use this to illustrate brand extensions and look to see how often and where a specific brand name occurs within the portfolio of the organisation's products. So brand portfolios are very common in a whole range of different types of industry, in food and drinks products, in personal care products, and also in services. Multiple brands are very often employed within a single product category for market coverage. And this might be, for example, to target different market segments. You may have a luxury brand and a premium brand. The luxury brand targeted at the less price-sensitive consumer, and the more budget brand targeted at the more price-sensitive consumers. Different brands can be used to target different channels of distribution. A good example of that would be in hair care. So L'Oreal have a special brand called Kerastase, which is targeted at the professional distribution channel. In other words, it's primarily sold through hairdressing salons and is not generally widely available in shops, as L'Oreal's other hair care brands would be. Multiple brands can also be used by organisations within a specific product category to make sure that they have, or to ensure that they have, different brands for different geographical areas. And that may be because in one country there's a legacy brand that has been acquired by an organisation that has strong heritage, and so they want to keep the brand. So the example of Rowntree's polos would fit here. Rowntree's is a British brand of confectionery, with polos being one of its sub-brands. And when Nestle acquired Rowntree's, they kept the name for the UK market, so it still does appear on certain types of confectionery because it has considerable high levels of brand awareness. If it has history, heritage, it has strong positive associations within the UK market. There's some basic principles, though, of brand portfolios, because having lots of brands can be complicated. So you want to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, that you haven't just amassed a whole load of brands for accidental reasons. Brand portfolios should maximize coverage of a market. So there should be the right number of brands for the different market segments that the organisation wants to target. And those could be geographical segments, they could be economic segments, they could be segments that are differentiated on the benefits sought by the product. So you might have different brands for different benefit-seeking categories, different, for example, a brand of laundry detergent that is all about high power performance, biological cleaning, and a different brand that's for very gentle cleaning or for specialist laundry for wool or silk. Having the same brand name for both of those types of laundry benefits would be problematic because the benefits are so very, very different. One being very powerful, chemically oriented, biological cleaning, and one being very gentle. So you want to have the right number of brands so that no potential customers are left out or ignored. You've got a brand for all of the different market segments that you are targeting. But you want to not have too many brands so that they start competing with each other. The term brand cannibalization is used, where if you have too many brands, they start to eat away at each other's market share rather than eating away at the competition's market share. So you don't want your brands to be competing with each other. So there are some basic economic guidelines that follow from this. A brand portfolio in an organisation is too big, too large, too many brands if you can actually increase your profit by dropping one or more brands. That would mean that at least one brand in the portfolio is really not paying its way. It is not economically viable. However, on the other hand, a brand portfolio is not big enough if profit can be increased by adding a brand. If there's a market segment that is large enough and valuable enough that is not being met, not being addressed by the existing brands in the portfolio, and we'll look at some examples of that shortly. So if you can add a brand to reach this new market segment and make more profit, then it makes economic sense to do so and to grow the brand portfolio. And clearly the brand product mix matrix that we've just been looking at is a fundamental tool which informs these strategic decisions about the size of the brand portfolio, whether it's too large or whether it's not large enough, whether it has some gaps within it. Let's continue to think about why we would have a brand portfolio, and there's some work that you need to do for our class session. Taking Nestle as an example again, click through to the Nestle website. This time it's not bottled water, but it's breakfast cereal. Have a look at the range of breakfast cereal brands that Nestle offers and think about why they have these different brands. What unifies them? What differentiates them? Why not just have a single brand of breakfast cereal? So use the Nestle example to start your thinking about why an organisation would bother to have a brand portfolio. Brand portfolio is also known by the name the House of Brands strategy. Now that will make a little bit more sense to you next week's topic when you read the Aker and Joachimsthaler paper, The Brand Relationship Spectrum. They clearly explain the House of Brands strategy in comparison with other branding strategies that might be used. Another term that is sometimes used for this in the literature is the individual branding strategy. But what these terms mean, portfolio branding strategy, house of brands strategy, individual branding strategy, is a strategy used, as we've just seen by Nestlé, where they have many, many brands. In each product category that they operate in, they will tend to have multiple brands. So they'll have multiple brands within and across product categories. So what I'd like you to do for our class session is to describe the main characteristics of this strategy and provide examples of companies using it. I've given you the example of Nestlé, but you can find some more examples of companies that use a portfolio branding strategy that have multiple brands. And then I would like you to think about and do some research on this strategy. What are its advantages? Why would an organisation engage in a portfolio branding strategy? It sounds like a lot of hard work. It sounds like it might be very, very complicated. So why would organisations do this? What advantages does it confer? And then what are the disadvantages? What might go wrong? What problems might be associated with having a portfolio branding strategy? So bring your notes and your thoughts on this to our class session for a discussion. Let's look now at the different roles that brands might play in an organisational brand portfolio. And just to get you thinking, there's some pictures here of brands which play very specific roles in their organisational portfolio. Let's start by thinking about the role that is played by the so-called flanker or fighter brands. The example I'm using here is from Procter & Gamble's brand portfolio. Procter & Gamble have a leading premium brand of nappies or diapers called Pampers. It's an expensive brand, very high quality, it's a market leading brand. But there are a number of consumers who either can't or don't want to spend that much money on nappies, diapers for their baby. And so without a cheaper brand in the portfolio, Procter & Gamble would not have anything to offer those consumers. And so their business would leak out, pardon the pun, to cheaper own label alternatives or to competitors that offer cheaper nappies or diapers. And so Procter & Gamble took the decision to launch a flanker or fighter brand to sit alongside Pampers in the brand portfolio, and that is the brand Luvs. So now Procter & Gamble have these two nappy or diaper brands sitting alongside each other, the premium and the budget. And in so doing, they can target both the price segments of the market, the people who are very price sensitive and the people who are not at all price sensitive. Another sort of role that a brand might play in an organisational portfolio is to be a cash cow. And this is where our Gillette pictures come in. Now, at the moment, as I'm speaking to you, Gillette's newest, most expensive razor is the Fusion. And a Gillette Fusion razor retails for about £12 to £14 sterling. And some people will choose to purchase that. People who always want to have the latest model, who are prepared and able to pay the premium price for Gillette's newest model with the highest functionality and so on. However, there are consumers who are not really interested in the newest razor, who just want a much more basic, simple razor for their shaving needs. And so Gillette continues to offer, alongside its new top-level premium brands such as Fusion, more basic brands, some of which have been around for a very, very long time. So the examples here are the Mach 3 and the Blue 2, and these are considerably cheaper than Fusion. So you can get a multi-pack of Blue 2s for £2 or £3 sterling, compared with that £12 or £14 for a single Fusion razor. Now, these are called cash cow brands because they bring in a lot of cash to the organisation. People buy them on habit. They've been buying them regularly for years. They're quite happy with them. They're not brands that require a lot of advertising to support, and so they are very profitable. So they play a key cash generating role within Procter & Gamble's overall portfolio. And that cash can be used to support newer brands that are finding their way, trying to find a good position in their market, or indeed to fund innovation and new product development, the products of the future. Another role that brands can play in organisational portfolios is to be a low-end or entry-level brand. And the example shown here is BMW's 1 Series. Now, BMW generally is known for luxury cars, but not everyone can afford an X5 or an X6 or the top-end BMW saloons or sports cars or convertibles. And so, to allow people with less disposable income or less money to spend on a car into the world of the BMW brand, BMW created the 1 Series, the cheapest models in the range, to allow to maximise coverage of the BMW brand, to maximise its availability to consumers and move it away from being purely about super expensive performance luxury cars. Alternatively, at the other end of the spectrum, an organisation can create a new brand to offer a more prestigious positioning in the market. It can the brand can play a high-end prestige role in the organisational portfolio. And an example to illustrate this is from the Toyota organisation. Now, Toyota is a very, very successful brand in its own right. It is known for reliability, dependability, honest, straightforward cars, high value for money, no nonsense, etc. When Toyota decided to enter the luxury car market, they realised that Toyota's brand image would not work. It was not sufficiently prestigious. Toyota's associations of rugged dependability did not sit well within the luxury market. And so they created a completely new brand from scratch, the Lexus brand, with its own distribution channel, its own dealerships, with very little, in fact, very, very minimal association to Toyota, the parent company. And this worked extremely well for Toyota as a company. Lexus very quickly became a very, very successful brand and took Toyota into that high-end prestige end of the market, which using the Toyota brand on its own simply could not have done. Now, we've talked an awful lot about fast-moving consumer goods, about shampoo and bottled water and breakfast cereal. But I just wanted to finish this video by explaining to you that brand portfolios are also very, very relevant in the world of business-to-business marketing. Business-to-business brands also exist, and organisations use a range of brands in business-to-business settings. The organisation I'm using here to illustrate this is called WPP. WPP is a marketing services conglomerate. And the diagram here shows all of the brands that WPP own. They're all different brands of advertising agencies, market research agencies, PR agencies, and associated companies within the overall marketing services field. And just having all of these different brands rather than just a single WPP brand allows the company to spread its activities much more widely than it would otherwise be able to do. These different companies have their own identities, their own specialisms, their own market segments that they target. And as a result, WPP as a corporation can offer a much wider range of business services to clients through this brand portfolio. So that's all for the first video for this session. Come back and listen again to the second video where we'll be talking about the branding hierarchy. But for now, goodbye.